Mark 87 drops into his coat, slightly wet from the sanitation rain that's falling on Whitehome. Mark 87 reaches his hand down into a crevice. It's been 4 days, and he's sticking his arm further into a space between vents. From far away, someone might see that there's an old android working around and digging through an alleyway beside the Grand Lux Hotel. Now, the Lux Hotel is a memorial site, so chances are it probably didn't get demolished. At least that's what Mark 87 is hoping for. The thing is, something has clearly shifted, because reaching for his secret cache of belongings, it's been 4 days and he hasn't gone into any of his own research into looking into why he was put to sleep for 50 years. He's only just now deciding to give himself some time before he wraps up the case with Stieg Farnell. This is now the chance to at least dig out something of his own. Maybe he's got... if this is the one that he's remembering, this is going to have a spot with his IDs and maybe the vehicle license, wherever that car is, and at least one sidearm, but... And he pulls out a packet of papers and files inside of a zipped up bag. He digs around inside of the space, so he pulls... Finally, okay. There's at least one little sidearm that belongs to him. Now, there's not any ammo in this thing? Great. Of course there wouldn't be. Okay, what if somebody had found it? Well, that's hoping against hope at this point. 50 years of waiting and maybe nobody found Mark's old belongings. Well, as it turns out, he's finally collected a couple of items. He's digging through the files, standing in the rain. Yeah, here's the license for one of his vehicles. Here's a street address that probably is no longer valid. Here's a special ID, and there we go. Android certification. A registration card that shows that Mark 87 is actually a self-owned robot. All right, so time to cross off some more of my to-dos. Finding some of my items, getting a little bit of my own money back, and preparing to close out a case. Well, that's actually kind of nice. That's pretty good for a trip at 3 in the morning. Mark 87 zips up the bag, opens up a packet, a little hidden pocket beside his thigh, and stuffs the gun inside of it, and then walks out of the alleyway and into the crowd. It's time to start digging into his own life and wrap up this case. Time for my last episode of Caught in the Rain, a solo mystery role-playing game, and I am a little bit sad to see it end. I'm also very sure I want to do another round of it in some way. Maybe not with the same system, but I'm not done with Mark 87. So anyway, here we are, episode 5, and I only have like a handful of turns to go before wrapping up this case. First of all, thank you all so much for hanging with this thing for as long as you have, all 100 some odd 20 of you, and truly I am glad to kind of get back into this process. I'm learning to manage the audio, I'm editing all of the work, I'm putting together not necessarily a script, because when it comes to a solo role-playing game, it's all improv, the whole thing. The only not improv-y part is actually following the rules of the game. So, that said, I'm really appreciative. So the long and the short of it is that Caught in the Rain works fantastically for constructing a noir flavored mystery game, and it manages to retain a lot of the um, upbeats and downbeats. And making good use of downbeats is not easy to do. So the fact that it actually manages to incorporate downbeats in what I just played, which is called a obligation scene, where your character has some kind of outside of the mystery obligation that they have to maintain, and by maintaining or fulfilling that obligation, it prevents them from getting more fatigue. I didn't have to do that, but I wanted like a narrative reason for Mark 87 to finally um, become a little one of the armed private detectives instead of just trying to wing it with his fist and his wits, which there's nothing wrong with that. I just played an obligation scene, and effectively there is one more scene to play, a truth scene, and then I get into the solution of the game. So, who's ready to see Mark 87 find the missing man? Mark 87 sets down a pile of papers on the kitchen table and says, "You ready to wrap up this case? You know where Stieg is?" "Not quite. But I think we've got all of the pieces we need to assemble the answers to this." Mark 87 opens up the newspaper that he walked in with, and hidden inside are pieces of the evidence that he's collected and arranged in a way that allows him to study it and talk through the case. Nix Croman stands up and walks behind Mark 87, and they both stand before the mystery that Stieg himself was working. Stieg had been looking for his brother, found him, and had provided a safe house for him. But after that, somehow Stieg goes missing. Okay, it's a truth scene. So this means that as a player, I am spending one of my clue sets, as in a set of cards that I have collected from all of the clue gathering in the most difficult scenes in previous days. I'm taking a clue set and turning them into truth cards, because I've got 3 cards in my clue set for the 8s. And the 8s, according to my notes, represent Stieg looking for his brother, Leif Farnell, and it represents also the starship logs and the fact that Leif was listed as dangerous, but he wasn't eliminated, and that Leif had been hiding or found on a starship of some kind. So all of that is wrapped up in the 8s. There's other elements to the mystery, and there's other elements to the mystery, and I don't need those resolved in order for the mystery to be resolved. So what I'm going to do is, for every one of these cards, I get to draw a face card from the truth deck. Then I'm going to narrate the fiction attached to it, and then draw the next truth card, and then the next truth card, adding in the layers of fiction. So what normally would happen is you, like in previous episodes, I think in episode 3 or 4, I did this, where a truth scene, you draw the 3 cards, and I told the story. Because narratively speaking, these are scenes where your detective is standing in front of the clue board or looking at the evidence and arriving at the connections. In this case, I need a scene where Mark 87 opens the door and finds either Stieg Farnell or Stieg Farnell's body. Trigger warning. I don't know if he's actually dead or not. What I'm going to do is begin this truth scene. Unlike any of the investigation scenes, which had a whole lot more structure attached to them, truth scenes truly are just draw card, see card, and eliminate other truth cards so that I can, by process of elimination, check out or have a good way to guess at the solution. Yes, there is one scene after the truth scene. The resolve is itself a scene, not one with any dice. So I guess I don't need my beautiful bullet dice. Not for this episode. I did all that rolling and got lucky sometimes and not so lucky other times. But hey, this was a lot of fun for 2d6. The 8 of diamonds. That I discard the 8 of diamonds, and it allows me to draw the King of Clubs. What does that mean? It's a connection related to Stieg Farnell and Leif Farnell. Mark 87 and Nix Croman are walking their way through the shipyards. So at the start of this whole mystery, we found that weird encrypted note that Stieg Farnell had left behind. At first, I figured it was some kind of hidden help message or something to find him. But when I tracked it down, it led me out into the shipyards, specifically to where Leif Farnell was being held and housed. Now, that's the thing. All this time, we've been uncovering the fact that the police are able to track down updated individuals with their cybernetic implants, that the transponder codes are being used to find and eliminate even people who might make Sylvan Steel look bad. Leif Farnell has been staying in these shipping yards this whole time. Why? It's because, and Mark 87 and Nix Croman stop and look out over the shipyards, and they see dozens and dozens of shipping containers. It's because each of these shipping containers themselves has a transponder code. So many of the individuals that have been pulled off of the station, the police aren't going to be able to find and track them because they're off of the station. Yet somehow Stieg knew that the transponder codes were how people like his brother and even himself might have been tracked. So that's one piece of the puzzle. Nix looks at him. So I don't understand. How long has Leif been living in the shipping container? Mark 87 looks at her. From the brief time that I had, I figured maybe a handful of days tops. I'm willing to bet that there's more going on to the timing. He finds his brother and finds a whole lot more. I've only got 2 of these cards left. Spending one now to draw another truth card, and it's Jack of Clubs. Okay. Jack of Clubs. Jack of Clubs. How does this tie together? Now Nix Croman finishes sipping her coffee and throws it into a garbage bin as she and Mark 87 are walking toward one of the police stations. And she looks at him and says, "So, what do you think he found?" "I don't think it's a what. I think it's a who." Mark 87 points to the station. Have you noticed that we've had so many different guards who all have checked in and referred to whether or not I've been registered, that registration passes through the station chief, the police chief. And I don't think he's here. I think he is where Stieg is now. He's where anyone from Sylvan Steel, anyone with a Sylvan Steel cybernetic implant that could go nuclear, they get possibly put onto a different part of the station into a ship. That's why that's why Stieg had been tracking station and shipping starship logs. So Leif Farnell was on a starship and got onto Whitehome at some point, and his transponder codes flag and get noticed as dangerous. Now, that probably coincides with the increasing number of upgrades that all of the station police have had. Have you noticed how many of them, every single time we talked to somebody on the police, they've had a lot more updates and upgrades and cybernetic enhancements than all those guys. Now, the dusk flower seeds that Stieg has been maintaining and growing and has so many of the natural herb medications, like all of that's to make sure that the cybernetic implants don't override the nervous system. That's what's keeping Leaf from going nuclear. Probably has kept Stieg from going nuclear as well. But the police don't know about that. Or at least they didn't until something goes wrong. Nix leans in. Wait. You said that you think the police chief has gone missing and he might be housed in what? Sylvan Steel's own prison for these guys? I thought the police and Sylvan Steel were working together. Mark 87 tilts his head and says, yeah, that's where I think Easy Street comes in. Because what happened there, you don't tear down a building just because somebody goes missing from it. You tear down a building to eliminate evidence, to eliminate questions, to make it difficult to pick up what might have been left behind. And I suppose that whatever Stieg was pushing for, suppose this, and Marx leans back against the wall of the exterior of the police station. Imagine this. Stieg has found his brother and has figured out that the transponder codes are being used to track down high cybernetic possibly dangerous cybernetic implants, right? So he goes to the cops, and the cops are highly upgraded. Do you think that opening that cover up goes down easily? A little bit of stress without the right dusk flower seeds and medication in his system, and I'm willing to bet the police chief went off too. So you think that's why he's missing? Yeah, I think Sylvan Steel is cleaning this whole thing up on a ship just off of the corner here. Wait, you've been there? Yeah, I didn't tell you about that, did I? I followed one of their lieutenants. Okay, last card out of my clue set, and very last card in the truth stack. So I've got a Jack of Spades. Jack of Spades. What does that mean? It could mean anything, but I got an idea. I think I've got an idea. I might have think I had a thought of that might have been an idea. Mark 87 and Nix Croman are walking down the street and looking at the marketplaces and the shops. And this is a space where the invasive ads were troubling for Mark 87's system. So his own internal operations are putting in little warnings that say, "Hey, watch out for more of the pop-up ads." So in this space here, Nix, in this space here, Nix, is a ship is access to a ship that leads to all of Sylvan Steel's off-station captures. So any of the people that they wanted to move off the station and out of the transponder range of Whitehome police, it's easy here. He taps a button and ding comes up an elevator. You want to get off station? Nix buttons up her coat, goes, "So you're saying we're going now to Stieg Farnell? If my hunch is correct, yeah. Fact of the matter is, there's only one place that Stieg Farnell can go. I was counting on eventually tracking him down by his own transponder codes using police information, but the thing is, he's not listed as dangerous. Why? What kept... He's gone missing. He's the one who would go missing. He's gone missing. He's the one whose transponder codes the police should be pulling up, but they haven't. Why? It's because he goes missing at about the same time that their own police chief does. And Sylvan Steel has to give transponder codes to the police for the police to track anybody down. This Sylvan Steel isn't going to give the police transponder codes, especially if transponder codes to someone that might show or expose Sylvan Steel creating a problem for one of their biggest customers, the Whitehome police themselves. You mean Whitehome's not necessarily... The Whitehome police department hasn't figured out that the upgrades are potentially dangerous? Maybe they assume that it's tied to a type of upgrade. Maybe they assume a more control. Maybe they just are greedy and don't care. And then at this point, the elevator shaft opens and they step inside. Sylvan Steel has a starship insignia on the elevator, and that elevator might just take them off the station, and for the first time in 50 years, Mark 87 is going to see the stars. Wow. All right, that gives me a lot of data to work with. First of all, I now have all of the truth deck emptied out. I've got it all revealed. So it's time to sift through the cards and see what's missing, because those are the cards that are hidden in the answer. Okay, that's weird. So I've got all of the cards that I've revealed. These are all face card truth cards. And I've got 4 kings and 4 jacks, and there are 3 hidden cards that I need to guess. Those are 3 queens. The only one I don't have is a queen of spades. So the answers are a queen of hearts, a queen of clubs, and a queen of diamonds. What a weird thing. 3 queens. I promise. I shuffled. I used this deck for my Blade Runner role-playing game campaign, and I love the dark mode style of the bicycle cards. So now I think it's time for the solve scene. So according to the rule set, the solve happens. You can choose to solve the mystery at the end of any scene, or if the clue deck is empty and I I didn't run out of time on the clue deck, or if you roll a 10 plus on the consequences table, and that means somebody has like gotten you in some way. So the way this works, I set up a scene and then I answer a set of questions that are attached to the mystery, as in I write down all my guesses for each of the truth cards. I reveal the cards, compare them to my guesses, then start. Then I answer each of the following questions for each of the correct guesses, like why was the location significant, why was the object significant, and why did the treachery befall the object. Those are 3 parts of the mystery that was created at the very beginning of this, meaning the location was speakeasy called Easy Street. The object, this is Stieg Farnell himself, and why did the treachery, being kidnapped, befall the object. So, I think it's a spam text. Anyway. All right. Now, so I've got. Oh, and there's an optional. There's an option to write down a lingering question you still have about mysteries. If you want to play a future mystery or maintain the clues of some kind. Or maintain like a career story. So you could, within Caught in the Rain, you can play multiple mysteries, only one at a time with your investigator. But after you finish one mystery, your investigator can level up and go to other mysteries, which is kind of what I want to do with Mark 87. But hang on, give me a second. Let me finish this mystery first. So, setting up the scene, let's do that and then answer questions. Nix Croman and Mark 87 are waiting in an elevator, staring at each other. Mark reaches out into his thigh and pulls out his sidearm. And she goes, "Should I be worried?" "No," Mark 87 says. Are you sure? I mean, you seem to be preparing for some kind of an action. Like, are you malfunctioning? Is this okay? I mean, we're gonna walk into the den of Sylvan Steel it's their turf, their ship, where they're keeping the police chief. We're gonna do this alone? Mark 87 looks at her and goes, "What makes you think we're doing this alone?" The door opens and a dozen armed police officers are walking through the holding cells of a starship. And the artificial gravity is still a little wonky in some spots, but it's working. And Mark 87 walks through and finds Sergeant Montgomery Haywood, who had been getting Mark 87's report and notes digitally for a couple of hours now. Mark 87 had finally finished one of those instructions that allowed him to pass that binary code through the systems that he had collected and onto the police waveband, so that even a suspicious police chief can verify the data and see where the detective's head is going. Mark 87 walks through the holding cell and sees a large, bulky man with a mustache that also looks like it's partly plastic and has sharp eyebrows and curly hair. Yeah, there's the police chief. And It looks like he's being doped up right now by whatever Sylvan Steel is running. This Montgomery Haywood walks over to the detective and shakes his hand. All right, can you talk me through this? I got all the signatures and transponder codes and reports. Our team's been able to verify a dozen of these contracts, and you're probably right. We've got to shut down almost all of our own updates. We've got to probably shut down all of our own updates and upgrades. That is going to be a beating for our team, but at the same time, if Sylvan Steel finally went this far, like, why would they even do this? And Mark 87 walks around Montgomery Haywood and points. There's one slightly bulky armed man who is leaning against the cell, and he's looked like he's sat there for about a week, almost 5 days. And Nix recognizes him immediately. Stieg! Stieg! And the holding cell opens up. So my guesses were Queen of Hearts, Queen of Clubs, and Queen of Diamonds, right? Well, I reveal the cards now, and here are the answers. Queen of Hearts, Queen of Diamonds, Queen of Clubs. When it comes to this is the thing about any form of process of elimination. You've done the hard work. It's not a guess anymore. You're just answering it, what's there. So, but I imagine that in some versions or some playthroughs of this, you might have to just make a bigger guess if you haven't solved it all. So, starting in the order of progression, why was the location significant? Why Easy Street Speakeasy? Mark 87 looks at the police chief, who's got a sheepish and sorrowful look on his face. And before he speaks, Mark 87 says, probably because it's off the beaten path. This is where Sylvan Steel owners and the police chief were able to make their connections and trade information. He thinks he's doing it for public good. They think they're doing it for good PR. Everybody wins, right? Except you're not supposed to be tracking down private citizens. Isn't that right? And the mustached police chief looks up and says, it was for the good of the people. You never know when somebody stronger than you, faster than you, able to do things you've never thought possible, can ruin the lives and safety of people around you. I work with these men every day, and they are some of the bravest people, but I can't keep asking them to take risks when there are upgrades out there that allow people to run 50, 60 miles an hour. There are upgrades out there that can make a person's fast twitch muscles move at superhuman speeds. We can't take that risk. And so I was getting people off of the streets. And going to Easy Street, the ambiance, people knew I was there, and nobody looked twice when a Sylvan Steel officer went there, because everybody passes or used to pass through that bar. Next question is, why was the object significant? Mark 87 holds his sidearm and walks around the corner. So why Stieg Farnell? I bet that's what you're also wondering, Montgomery. Have you found anybody from Sylvan Steel yet? Not yet. Oh, good. Then I can finally offer something. And he kicks open one of the doors and unseals one of the hatches, and there she is. Sergeant Willow Thorpe. Nice to meet you. So, can I take you up on a coffee this morning? Moments later, Montgomery Hayward has Willow Thorpe in custody. Why kidnap Stieg? He was the one person who actually got to see. Willow looks over at the police chief and then looks at Montgomery Hayward. Yeah, I can tell you're probably on the edge of yours too. Don't listen to her, the police chief says. I'll tell you why, Stieg. Because he was the one person who confronted me and pointed out the cover-up in general, and it was too much. And he got to witness me explode. Lost my temper. I turned into the very thing that I was trying to prevent. And this guy got to see it all. Normally my shame wouldn't be a reason to have somebody arrested, but it wasn't my call. And Willow Thorpe leaned in with her arms behind her back. I need an attorney before I admit that it was mine. But in fact, I can't say that it was entirely my call. That's a corporation for you. The responsibility spreads everywhere. Mark 87 leans in and fills in the gap. So this guy's an eyewitness to the PR nightmare you're trying to prevent. All right. That about wraps it up, doesn't it? Why did this treachery befall this object? No, that doesn't wrap it up at all. Nix stands up from Stieg's huddled form. Why him? Why kidnap this guy? Instead of actually, protecting him? Or why put him through this mess at all? Mark 87 points out and points his finger because Stieg knew about the dusk flower seeds. You forget that all of this happens after he's found his brother and after he's made sure that Leaf is taken care of. But for whatever reason, Sylvan Steel chose to hold on to him, and uh, maybe they were protecting him until they could finagle out whatever the recipe was. Stieg pipes up, and I gave it to them too. All I told them was the dosage that I was giving my brother. Is he okay? How's he doing? Mark 87 walks over and says, he's fine. You did good, Stieg. You did real good. And for your pain, you had a 5-day, uh, you had a 5-day sentence. Sorry to hear that. Mark 87 minutes later is standing on the streets of Whitehome, holding one of the flyers for the dusk flower seeds. It's a simple medication, and with the right application, dozens of people will be able to walk the streets again. Many more might be able to be exonerated from whatever prison sentence they're on, even rehabilitated, and hundreds can continue to enjoy their lives and do it safely. Nix Croman walks beside him with Stieg leaning on her. Can you believe it? It's just the dusk flower seeds. It's an old cure from ages ago. Just because it's outdated doesn't mean it's bad. Montgomery Haywood claps the detective on the shoulder and says, I might not have ever believed you if it hadn't been for those binary codes. I know, Mark 87 says. That's why I shared them with you and why I waited until the last possible minute to put it together, because no amount of convincing could have warned you that your biggest supplier was also holding your boss hostage. Is it a full-blown cover-up? I don't know. What's the legality on this? I don't get to know. That's for humans to figure out. I just happen to make the connections. Well, you're on the books now. You've got other cases coming your way if you're interested. Thanks. As Nix Croman, Stieg Farnell, and Mark 87 watch the police taking care of everyone, Mark leans over. So you won't have me bumming on your living room socket anymore. What? You have to come back over. We've got a place taken care of, place saved for you. So Mark 87 leans over and says, so I did find enough of my own savings, cachet from, well, for me it was just a couple of weeks ago, but for all of you and the world around here, it's been 50 years. So putting stuff into savings kind of worked out for me. So I'm going to get my own place, some place to plug in and recharge for myself. Wow. What? You're not moving out like immediately, right? You can still come over, and we need to at least have dinner or something to celebrate. Mark 87 looked at her and patted his hollow stomach. And they looked at each other, realized the silliness of it, and said, yeah, family dinner would be nice. So this was Caught in the Rain with Yusuf Slayman. Hi, everybody. And I enjoyed producing Outdated, the adventures of Mark 87 and Nix Croman. And you heard me say all of these names and play through all these cards and rules, but at the end of the day, it's all about just enjoying a good story. So I hope you did. And thanks for watching. I'm planning to do other videos and tell other stories. So yeah, personal review of Caught in the Rain, 10 out of 10. I do recommend it. Go for it. Especially if you like a good noir. Caught in the Rain has fantasy side and has a horror side, and you can do what I did. You can mix and match them to create like a sci-fi horror, a fantasy noir. I mean, you can do anything you want. Also, this game, it does, even though it's called a solo mystery role-playing game, it also supports multiplayer. So it's got options. So, that said, yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Thank you everyone for, again, participating in the story and watching how it goes. I think I'm going to play more. See you next time, Space Cowboy.